Welcome to the Small Business Evangelist radio show, the show that brings you candid interviews, case studies, and cross-industry insights to help you accelerate your own small business success. Here's your show host and small business evangelist, Jack Schoenberger.
Welcome to the show, everybody. On this episode, I am going to have a conversation with Albert Polanco. Albert is a successful entrepreneur and co-founder of Crucible Strategic Advising, located in Houston, Texas. Albert's also a Marine Corps veteran and the author of Your Life Design Blueprint, How to Create the Blueprint for the Life You Want to Live. For those listening to this on demand, this interview was actually recorded in the direct aftermath of Hurricane Harvey, and you will hear us talk a little bit about the hurricane during our conversation. I know you're going to enjoy listening to Albert and what he shares about the why and the how he developed a system of blueprints and how he used those blueprints to architect his own successful business and personal life, and why he feels compelled to share that with others. With that said, let's go to the interview. Okay, Albert, welcome to the show.
And thank you very much for this opportunity to sit and invest some time with you and your audience.
I'd like to jump in. I've been doing some research. I've been talking with you on one of the places online that we met, which was in the Vetrepreneur Tribe group on Facebook, and also in the Warrior Council there. And along with your book, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, which I haven't been listening to, and very happy that I got it, and very impressed by it, and one of the reasons I really wanted to get you on the show. But with all the things that you work with and the people that you work with on helping them reach their goals, what do you think? Why do you think that people have such struggles reaching goals? What gets in their way?
That's a great question. So I really think it boils down to one major thing. Well, two major things. Number one, they don't have any clearly defined direction attached with a system, right? A system that continuously, it tracks progress and allows them to rapidly readjust, like course correct, The other part, I think, is also that it's all about habit, right? They're not using the human mind's habitual fashion. Our brains work in a habitual way, and they're not using those habits to automatically take them to their goals. Instead, most people are fighting their habits instead of focusing on creating better ones that take you where you want to go. So those are the two things I think that most people struggle with, or why they struggle with.
So if I'm hearing you right, and in some ways it's almost people getting out of their own way. Is that what you're saying? Yeah. That they actually have bad habits that are keeping them from actually doing what they need to do?
Yes. That with the lack of clarity, right? You say, hey, I want to make a lot of money. Well, how much money do you want to make exactly, right? The clarity of direction of where you want to go. Like a ship can't go from one side of the earth to the other side without charting a path, right? And that path needs to be able to course correct. So using a system for that.
So it's almost like an autopilot on a plane, just as you're on your journey, something that keeps you within, the left and right limits of where you're heading to, that type of a system.
Yes. And our brains work in a miraculous way to conserve energy. So when you create a habit that aligns with a goal, right, you're not exerting effort to make forward progress. And in fact, you're going to see that you're going to make faster progress, and it feels effortless once you do what I call the front load work to establish that habit. So it's like autopilot. I even call it that. Put your goals on autopilot.
It's a great concept, and being a kind of a student of personal development, also, and I noticed in your book, in your foreword to it, you mentioned Jim Rohn, and I'm a big fan of Jim Rohn and all of his lessons. How long? I've heard different numbers. What's your view on how long does it take for a person to actually take something and turn it into a habit, or, as you say, an autopilot system?
So there's no consensus. Some people say 21 days. Some people say 30 days. I've heard 61 days, and that's the one that's the target that I set. If I can do something for 61 days, consecutively, even if I missed a couple days, but I'm tracking it those 61 days, then I find that it becomes ingrained and it becomes a habitual behavior for me.
So when you talk about that you try to do it for the 61 days, and you talk about trying to put in like an autopilot system, what systems do you use in your own life to achieve what you need to achieve to establish your habits?
So I read a lot of books and I got a lot of theory, and I didn't know how to put it into place. So through all that self-development and discovery, I created my own system, and I call it the Life Design Blueprint. Basically, it's a system that allows me to create the life I want. And the way it works is I have these blueprints for different parts of my life that I use to keep me on track, right? One of the major pieces of this is I plan my week on Sunday. Sunday evening, I have a block of about 2 hours that I plan my entire week, all the targets, all the goals that I want to hit for the week, the outcomes really, in writing, has to be in writing. And I review at the very same time, I review what happened that past week, right? So I look at what I did well, what I did wrong, what I need to do more of, what I need to do less of. And then I also stack up where I write out all the things that I won at, like all my wins. I write them down. It's very important to see those things that you did accomplish. And then I also write down my failures, where I failed. And then the last thing I do is I make a plan is how am I going to take this forward and how am I going to improve, use this information to move forward? What am I going to change? What is my course correction moving forward into the next week? So I build upon that every week by week, and then I do the same process at the end of the month. So I'm reviewing the entire month. So I'm literally cataloging my progress and making course corrections on a weekly basis. That's the main system of, the Life Design Blueprint that really, really just has helped me to always move forward, even though and even though I fail at a bunch of stuff, I can still move forward.
Now, while this is, and you have titled it the Life Design Blueprint, you put these systems also help you with your business, correct?
Absolutely. Yes, they do. And they absolutely apply to business. I start with your life because I feel like there's a lot of business owners out there who, they have a business that kind of hums, it's doing okay, but their personal life is in shambles, right? So if you start with you, with leading yourself, then you can more effectively run your business and everything else falls in line. So that's why I start with yourself. But then it absolutely the same thing applies. You can do the exact same system with your business.
Well, I think that, again, I think we share some common ground here in the fact that when I hear people talk about separating business from life and life balance and all, it's something I think I got from Tony Robbins, and I think it's an approach he kind of takes, is that it's all the enterprise of life, right? Whatever you're doing, as far as business, to exchange the value you bring to someone for some other value, whether that's money or, for another service or all, that is happening every day in what people call life versus business. So it's all really, one enterprise. And that's what I'm hearing you say, that's why your system really works across the bounds, because it is pretty much the same thing, correct?
Yes, it is. And when people say, it's nothing personal, it's just business, that's a cop-out, right? We're all people. At the end of the day, your business is not this entity. It's a group of people. It's an organization of people. Everything boils down to people, and that's a personal thing, right? So, you can have a good system in place, but you don't know how to handle people. You got a problem. You don't know how to handle your personal life. You got problems, right? It's all one thing. And that's my belief. So I totally agree with what your stance is on that.
And you do work with small businesses, and the name of your business is Crucible Strategic, correct?
Yeah, Crucible Strategic Advising is the full name, but yeah, we go by Crucible Strategic a lot of times. Yes, we do work with small businesses, small to medium businesses. We don't do like huge corporate type clients because we want to be nimble. And I find that those larger companies, it's a lot harder to affect, make an impact in those companies.
Well, with the small businesses that you work with, if you had to give me a top 3 list, what are the key issues that the biggest issues that small businesses have that they're kind of getting in their own way, as we talked about before, of reaching their goals?
So one of the things that I see with small businesses a lot, that probably the number one thing that I see, is they're constantly putting out the same fires, and they have no systems in place, right? They're literally flying by the seat of their pants. Some successfully, like they're making some money, but they have no peace. They can't scale it. They're stuck at the business. The business owner is the business, and they're stuck. There's cogs in the wheel, right? A lot of business owners, when you ask them, they'll say, "Hey, I have cash flow issues or personnel issues with employees, or I don't have enough time in the day or the resources to grow." But the true problem is that they don't have proper systems. And this all stems, right? This all comes down to leadership, right? Leadership, and then it turns to the strategy. And then lastly, I would say is the marketing, right? But it's always in that order. It's leadership. And when I say leadership, I mean self-leadership. I mean leadership in yourself, and then also in creating the proper systems and structures to operate that business. That's the main thing, right? It just, a lot of things, they boil down to these two or three main things. And I was talking about leadership. 8 out of 10 times when a person has a problem with employee, right, it's really the business owner that is not an effective leader, or they're not as effective as they think they are, right? And the book that I always recommend on this subject is Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink. That's an amazing book on leadership. My business partner, Ryan Reed, he's one of the most incredible leaders that I know. He's releasing a book called Self-Leadership, The Art of Becoming a Leader. It really comes down to leadership. That's one of the big things, but also just not having systems.
And what would be the first system that you would recommend that they try to get in place? I mean, is there a single system?
Yes. The first thing that any business should have is operations procedures. You should have operations and procedural manuals for everything that you do. And it sounds daunting, but literally today, you can record what you're doing while you're doing it and just talk about it, right? And that allows you to create a standard operating procedure. I know we were both in the military, so we understand that. But any business owners that are not veterans, that weren't in the military, the reason that franchises work so well, the reasons that these bigger companies work so well is because they have systems and they can scale. And so if you don't have a standard way to deal with something, every single different employee, every single different person will do something in a different way, and you can't track the results, what works, what doesn't, how to improve it. There's no tracking. So that's why writing a procedural manual and having a manual like that is probably the single most important thing that you could do for your business.
No, I absolutely think that's a great point. I think it's key, and that's why whenever I talked to, when I first got out and started working in the civilian world, and trying to get across to them the fact that when I would talk about trying to document and have basically, we would call it, almost like a desktop book, with all the standard operating procedures for each job and each process and all, and putting that together. I just tried to explain to them, this is something that's been working in the military for, over 100 years, right? And yeah. the fact that this is an organization that has the broadest of backgrounds, culturally, financially, a diverse background. And this is the way we found that makes something work, and work in a way that's provide predictable results. So it's something that, business should take a look at it. And your point about everything being so easy now, you're absolutely right. If you can speak it, you can get it transcribed, you can get it edited, and you can have it, sitting and ready for someone to take on. And it's a great way to help establish, I think, also a culture in a company too, because so I think that's a great point, and and I think that's great that you're helping spread that with the small businesses as it's going along. And can you just go over those three things again? I know it's kind of the mantra of your company. It's leadership, then
strategy, and then marketing. And I always have to add the word in that order because everybody is chasing these different shiny objects. Everyone's trying these different tactics. Let's do SEO. Let's do this kind of marketing. Let's do social media marketing. There's an order to it. And it starts with the leadership. Then it goes into the strategy. And then all these things align to formulate your marketing. A lot of people are trying to do the marketing piece first, and they don't have any strategy, and they don't have any leadership, and they're stumbling over themselves.
So when it comes to the business owners that you're working with, and you always have leadership first, do you personally feel that leadership is a skill that you're born with, or is it something that can be developed?
I think that there are people who are more inclined to be natural leaders. However, I don't think that great leaders are born. I think that you can put yourself in the position to become a great leader, and you can learn. You can learn that skill. Absolutely, you can learn that skill. So I don't believe that if you're not born with it, you can't be one. But I do think like people like my business partner, Ryan, he's been a leader his whole life, in one way or another. So he has that natural tendency, that charisma, that ability to really be emotionally intelligent with people, and people want to follow him. He doesn't call himself a leader. People will just follow him. That's because he's a self-leader. He leads himself. So that would be my response to that.
And other than leadership, what do you think what are some of the other valuable skills that you think a business owner should possess?
So I don't want to sound like I'm beating a dead horse, but creating systems, right? Creating a system to accomplish the mission. There was a sales trainer that I followed who said the word systems create freedom. And me being a creative person my whole life, I've been an entrepreneur since I was like 13 years old and a creative. Those two things are not synonymous with organization or systems, right? Creative people want to be spontaneous. They want to go with the flow. So you hear the word systems, you're like, oh, that's like prison, But what I found was when you have systems, you have more freedom to do the things that you want to do, to create the things that you want, because you're not putting out fires. So every problem is no longer a problem. It's actually a chance to improve your system. So you look at things differently. You handle an issue one time, and then you never have to handle it again if you have an effective system. If that problem's not solved, then that means you just need to improve or handle it differently, but you're solving the problem in a permanent way versus dealing with the same thing over and over. That's the number one most valuable skill, I think, in my opinion, besides leadership. And then the other one is dealing with leadership. It's emotional intelligence, right? Everybody wants to talk about business acumen, knowing what you're doing in the marketplace. But in reality, I think having emotional intelligence as a leader, how to handle people, we go back to this, don't take it personally. It's just business, which I would call BS, right? Everything's personal because we're all people. Your business is made of people. So if you can inspire people and deal with them in an honest, transparent way with integrity, and that's how you carry yourself, you're going to accomplish your business goals. Those are the two most valuable skills, I believe.
I agree wholeheartly, especially on the emotional intelligence side of the house. And I think that, I follow Gary Vaynerchuk and Richard Branson, and I think, their point of if you really take care of your employees will always take care of your customers, I think is a very powerful message today. And you're right, especially in this world of technology, you can still be high touch in your approach. Yeah. And not only with customers, but with employees, even if they're virtual employees and they're remote, just, taking the time to show, that you care and to show that, to give them guidance and really, I'm going to help you beat that horse. If you give them systems to work within and you give them some sense of certainty in what they know is the right thing to do, and they can go about that. Also, going back to your leadership point, where, the way I always approached leadership when I was in the military, and I had 3 different times I was in command, in peacetime and war, and from the book, you can always delegate your authority, and you should. You should give permission to your employees or the soldiers you're working with to solve problems, to use their creativeness to solve those problems, to improve upon the systems. If something comes up that's not, that you haven't accounted for in the system, and we can miss things, that they can do that. But you can never delegate your responsibility. As a leader, you're always ultimately responsible. So you give them that safety net, and then at the same time, you give them permission to go out and try. And if they make a mistake, tell them that you'll give them the guidance to get back on track, but they know they're not going to get crushed for it, So, and I think that's all part of that, what you're talking about with emotional intelligence. And I think that's key for any small business, any business period, small, large, in between, so, I totally on line with you there.
Yeah, I agree with you. People want to make an impact, right? They want to contribute in a meaningful way. And if you allow them that environment, if you create that environment as a leader with your systems and with the way of you putting your, emotionally intelligent, putting your people first, the mantra is like the customer's always right, or the customer first. I believe that employees belong first, because if you take care, like you said, you take care of your employees, man, they will handle your customers. They will be loyal to you. Those things, they trickle down. It starts with the leadership downwards, down all the way to the customer. That mantra of like, if you want something done, do it yourself. There's a lot of leaders and business owners who have that problem of letting things go. And again, to kind of solve that, you create the system the way you want it done, but you also make your employees a part of the process. You allow them self-ownership of that system, right? Because they're the ones who are going to be doing and executing that work.
Exactly. So before I let you go here, I want to circle back around. Like I said earlier, I got your book, and both the audio version and the Kindle version of it, and was very excited that you actually narrated your own book. I always enjoy listening to books that are narrated by the author, because you get the right inflection, you get the right, you can just feel, if it's something they felt passionate enough to put in the work of writing a book, it's good to hear that passion when they narrate the book. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. But what I'd like you to do is tell us really your reasons behind, that why it was important for you to do this book, what you're hoping that, the big takeaways that you hope and people get from consuming your book, and, the biggest aha moments that you think, are in the book for people to take away from your book.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Yes. So the book is called Your Life Design Blueprint. And I absolutely made the decision that I had to narrate my book. Like, I wasn't going to let someone else narrate my ideas. And the whole premise behind the book was my own aha moment, right? I'm addicted to personal development. I read one book that I applied one thing, transformed my life, and then I became addicted to it. And that, the most successful people read 60 books a year. So I said, I'm going to read 60 books this year. I ended up reading actually almost 100. And now it's like over 130, 140. But I read all these books, and they had all this amazing theory, life-changing ideas. And I was bouncing around from thing to thing. And being a dreamer my whole life, and not being super organized, and then struggling with procrastination and all these different things that I had to overcome. I didn't have a way to put all this stuff into practice, to use it. Right. It was a lot of motivation. It was a lot of inspiration. But then after a while, I was like, well, what am I going to do with it? Right. So I started to take and implement some of these principles that they talk about. And I created that system. I created blueprints, basically, that allowed me to put this stuff into practice. Right. And so when I just started tracking and doing the process that I talked about earlier was, setting my targets, properly setting goals, like knowing how to set goals the right way. And I'm not saying the right way is my way, but I'm saying in a way that is meaningful. knowing the why behind the goal, and then taking the time to formulate habits that lead you in that direction, that whole process of goal setting and then creating habits, and then just having a visual outside of your mind on paper way to track and make progress. So that's really the premise of the book. I was able to achieve goals that should have taken me a year or several months. I was able to achieve them in a matter of weeks. And so when that happened, I was so excited. I was like, I have to share this with everyone. I have to get this out there. There's a lot of people who are always looking to improve themselves. They have this deep feeling deep down that they've always been destined to achieve great things, and they don't know how. They struggle with procrastination, but they want to live better. People who are readers, who they struggle with applying personal development books, or they have big dreams in life, but they just don't know where to start, right? That's the thing, people don't know where to start. Created a way for them to start. And I'm not trying to say, hey, my way, do it my way. I'm giving you a framework. I'm not just explaining the theory, but I'm giving a framework, and then I'm giving you the tools of how you can use it, and then you make it your own, because it's called Your Life Design Blueprint, not My Life Design Blueprint, right? The website is My Life Design Blueprint, but that's just because that was what was available. But it's really yours. I'm giving you a system to follow. That's really the whole premise behind the book. I show you kind of the process of how to achieve your goals in a faster time by putting your goals on autopilot, right? And it's all about forming new habits, right? Making massive progress. And when you see the results in your life, you see progress, you get more inspired, you create more momentum. And it's just a cycle. It creates this momentum loop is what I call it. And then eventually you just rocket out towards your result that you want.
That's great that so what I'm hearing is, and you're going back to doing what you do with everything else. You've kind of put a system, to that. And the blueprint is actually a system of systems that you've established, and that becomes a framework that anybody can take and take the bits and pieces that resonate with them and make that their own. So it's not that you're saying this is the only way. This is a framework that's worked for me. These are some of the things I do, is just some ideas to spark your ideas. For instance, you talked about writing your goals and setting them down, and also writing what your failures, which are your lessons learned. Again, something from the military that I talk about, sometimes with my clients, is the fact that, it's not a bad thing to sit at the end of the day and just go over real quick your 3 ups, your 3 downs, the 3 great things that happened today and the 3 things you could have done better, and then, think about that at the end of your day, just so your subconscious can work on it at night, before the next day, but always, I tell them to always try to end on the 3 great things that happened, right? Because you want to end up with the positive side.
Absolutely.
So, but, the way that you've articulated in the book, I think is great. And I'm going to include links to the book. I'm going to include links to both the audio and the written version. In our description that you should be able to find somewhere wherever you're listening to this. If not, let's go and could you just tell everyone the best way to find you?
Yes, absolutely. The get to the book is mylifedesignblueprint.com. That's just the page for the book, the website for the book, and that's also where you're going to get the blueprints. So when you get the book, I created the blueprints that you get. They're all downloadable for you to use. And then I also created video training that goes with the blueprints, explaining exactly how to use each one of them. That's all included in the book. I'm not selling anything. I'm not upselling. It's just really this whole thing is about impact. It's about helping other people get that feeling that I had, that I want others to feel. When you have control over your own circumstances and you're the deliberate designer and creator of your life, I feel like you live in your potential, and you're just so much happier, and you're able to make an impact on other people's lives. So, yeah, that's where you find it, mylifedesignblueprint.com. And then you can also find me on my Facebook. You can look me up, Albert Polanco. I'll probably have a picture of my face with my book on it. Right there is my main profile picture. You can reach out to me there. And then cruciblestrategic.com is the other way to reach out to me.
Okay, and I'll try to grab those links and put them also in the description. If you're on a page that has a description available with the hyperlinks, and we'll have that there. But I've really enjoyed, and again, thank you for taking the time today. I know things are a little bit hectic where you're at right now just because of the hurricane. But thanks, Albert, for taking the time today. And is there anything that you want to leave everybody with as far as one last message before we end things here?
Yeah, there's actually two things. I want to say about Hurricane Harvey, like I am so blown away by the response in Houston and all around the country with what's going on. You know, I was walking, doing my walk today. We have a beautiful day finally when all the rain stopped. And I had this thought. I said, you know, Hurricane Harvey cost a lot of people a lot of stuff. But I feel like Houston found its soul, and not just Houston, but people, because at the end of the day, we're all people. We're all connected. Everything is interdependent. And seeing people helping other people and having compassion, that's been I'm so impressed by Houston and Texas at the people. That's one thing I just definitely wanted to call and talk about. But the last thought that I want to leave everyone with is that we are creators, all of us. You know, we have this society that tells us that we're supposed to live a certain way, but in reality, right, we are super powerful beings. There's part of us that we don't fully understand our potential. We only use a percentage of our brains, but we can literally create the life that we want, right? Anything that we want, we can create it, but it starts in the mind. It starts with you, and it starts with believing in that possibility. So know that you're a creator, and deliberately create and design the life that you've always wanted. It's within your grasp. That's what I want to leave people with.
That's outstanding. Well, thank you once again, Albert, and good luck. I know that we talked briefly before we got on for the interview and started to do the recording of it, and you mentioned that you're going to start working in there locally as far as volunteering some of your time and efforts helping with some of the people that did lose or have been displaced and lost their homes and are trying to regroup here. So thank you for that, for doing those things and living what you talk about.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It's really been a fun time. I like investing time with people like yourself. I hope that somebody who listens to this gets some value out of it. And if you can give to the Red Cross or something like that, I definitely, give, right? When you give, you don't just give to receive, but I'm giving my time because I was fortunate. I still have my house. I still had power. I definitely feel like it's within our nature, and we find fulfillment in giving and helping others. So if you can do that, definitely do that. But I really appreciate your time. Thank you for having me on the show. I enjoyed this.
Okay, again, that was Albert Polanco. You can see his contact information should be listed here on the page, or if you just go from the title of it, you can do searches on LinkedIn and then on Facebook, and you'll be able to reach out to him. And we're going to say goodbye for now, Albert, and good luck with your efforts as you move forward to help everybody else there in Houston area.
Thank you so much, Jack.
You've been listening to the Small Business Evangelist radio show with host Jack Schoenberger. To find out more about resources mentioned during this show, or to let us know you're interested in being a featured guest on an upcoming episode, please visit thesmallbusinessevangelist.com.